What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, back here with another update video. For the first time in quarantine, Sai, how you doing? You keeping sane over there?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Quite a bit of news to talk about today. Let's start off with Ndombele and his Instagram post yesterday, because obviously he put up a kind of compilation of different Spurs clips of him in a Spurs shirt, and the caption was, "Nothing has changed." And obviously with the news coming out the last couple of days saying that he could be going to Barcelona or he's not happy at Spurs, do you read too much into that, or do you think it's not much news and to move on kind of thing?
Yeah, I guess like from work experience of this sort of thing with emails and things, it's very hard to sometimes delve into what a text or a message actually means or doesn't mean.
Sure.
Words are very hard to like analyze when they're not sort of being said physically, if that makes sense, or verbally. Yeah, it's no one ever knows like what's going on in the background of football clubs or football players. You know, at the end of the day, they're all human. They will have, you know, banter and stuff with their mates and this, that, and the other, you know, at home or in the training ground and things. So I think there's always still, we know that this guy is incredibly talented. Like, and we're not just going on YouTube videos of his previous.
We've all seen it firsthand, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And it still trickles though. Like, it's not like a consistency. And we know that some players take time, and, you know, don't get me wrong, no disrespect to the French league, etc. But the Premier League is something way different. You know, the intensity, the sharpness that you have to get on with it. So I think there's a lot of things he needs to sort out, but we know as well, I don't think it's any secret really that Mourinho has obviously said some things to him in the past or recently, you know, whether that's about his fitness or his general consistency. And I'm sure he maybe is frustrated as well, that he had in his mind maybe that he could bring what he had before and literally completely transition it straight away to the Premier League. And it's just not happened, and you have to be patient. But I get it that some people just don't have the patience or whatnot. And, you know, if there are rumours around Barcelona, you know, I kind of find it a bit surprising. And yeah, it could be just nonsense of the media being bored like we are at home half the time.
Yeah.
But it could just be like a bit of reading bait or clickbait. You know, why would a club like Barcelona at this point in time buy a player that's unproven really in arguably the best league in the world? Like, I'd expect that maybe in 2-3 years time when he's accelerated his talents and his abilities and stuff, but maybe not so much now. But again, what happens in the background? Is this a PR move from his agents, etc., to get you know, I'm not saying a new contract because it's a bit early days, but certainly some different kind of attention for him, whether that be from the club or manager or people around him. So, you know, just a bit of a test, and equally to raise the price if he does sell, to put all these things in motion. Like, I'm sure Levy would love a bit of profit right now on a player he's only bought last summer. So
for a transfer fee as well for Tottenham.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, some more money. Who knows what's going on in the summer, let alone now with transfers and money. Don't really like talking about the money side of. I'm sure football clubs don't particularly want to banish around big numbers at this current situation that's going on around the world. So, yeah, at the end of the day, he's got a lot to prove. I hope that he does stay, and I hope that we get the best or more out of him rather. But yeah, it's difficult to find out what exactly those kind of messages mean, isn't it, from the players?
I know it is, but going back to your point in terms of how he's done this season, I think it's clear to see to everyone what talent he has, and I think along with Giovanni Lo Celso, he's probably the most technically gifted player in the squad. It's just purely about effort and desire and about fitness for me.
Yeah.
And I think that we've seen that with players before, and, you know, it goes one of two ways, you know.
Yeah.
it reminds me of Adel Tarab a bit, where he had the world at his feet at one stage, you know, but he just didn't have it up there. And in the end of the day,
headless chicken, if I remember.
But he had the technical ability like nobody else, and the tricks he could do on the football pitch and make other footballers look absolutely silly was insane. But he just didn't have it up there to make it in the Premier League.
Yeah, I guess like you could associate that kind of philosophy around, you know, like the trick players. I can't remember their exact names. There's so many out. Yeah, those kind of guys. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure they're great footballers and stuff, but maybe there's a certain element that didn't allow them to, at a certain age or whatever, get into that kind of career or whatnot, or they chose that, and fair play to them. Like, at the end of the day, they're having a great career out of it. And don't get me wrong, it's a bit different. Like Adel Tarat and Ndombele that we're talking about is that these guys are in a position that they've been fortunate enough to get through the ranks and obviously work hard at some point to be noticed and gain the talent and abilities.
Yeah.
But like there does come a point with every player where, are you going to show us or not? Because otherwise we may as well not bother. I think that was the same with Adel Tarat back then. Was okay, yeah, we can see you've got good feet, mate, but like you need to also produce the other elements on the football pitch. Yeah. And that's what perhaps is missing from Ndombele at the moment, where sometimes we see massive sparks of his effort. He's tracking back and then accelerating forward and the great passing that he has. And then another day you see someone different and you're like, well, you've got like another Mesut Ozil on your hands, haven't you? Like one day brilliant, then the next not. And it's like, well, that's not the whole point, you know, to be a team player, to be successful as a team, you have to all be 100% all the time. It's no different to a work environment or any other environment in the world, you know?
Yeah. But let's move on and let's talk about Heung-min Son, because obviously he's doing his service out in South Korea.
Yeah.
And it's rumoured that if the season is to start again in July or in June, that he will miss the first bit of training once again, as he likes to do every season. What do you make out of that? Like, is he spending too much time in South Korea? Because it seems like every pre-season he's away in South Korea.
It's
he's contracted to Tottenham Hotspur at the end of the day.
I know it's a really difficult one as well, though, because again, back to my point earlier about being a human. Like, he's obviously got in his head, or I'm very sorry, but I don't know the exact culture in Korea. Or the necessities that are required. You know, I know there's a service situation that he had to potentially go through if they didn't win, etc. A year or so ago. So I'm not sure the ins and outs on that, but yeah, of course he's a Spurs player, and I guess that's the catch-22 of many players around the world. Is okay, we've got a fantastic player, but part of him has to do X, Y, Z at certain periods of time, or this, that, and the other. And you kind of have to accept that. Now, you either don't have him in your team and someone else has him, or you have him with the great player that he is, and just accept that that is what it is. You know, we can't get too agitated about it. Yeah, it's very frustrating that we most of the time miss him for a few weeks in the beginning of the season. Is it disruptive? I don't know whether it's disruptive to him and the team. As fans, we see it as a frustration and maybe disruption. But maybe it isn't as bad as what we think it is. But yeah, who doesn't want a player like that at the very beginning in pre-season? You know, Mourinho's made it clear that he missed the pre-season last year.
Yeah.
And, you know, who knows what position we would be in before quarantine, where we would be with that team now. So let's see what happens in the summer. But yeah, I think obviously Pochettino is the same. He always had these feelings, and he made them publicly clear that, guys, how am I supposed to operate this preparation in the summer with half my squad?
Yeah.
It's partially similar to when the Euros the year before, when half the team was missing because they all had a great time and had a great performance.
Yeah.
You know, Belgium included in all of these teams, and we had like half a squad. Yeah, you can't read too much into it. And at the end of the day, like I said, he's a human and he has his own aspirations and stuff. You know, I'm assuming they all obviously wanted to be at home with their families in this tough period, and who wouldn't want to be, of course. But yeah, is a frustrating one, but I guess it's something that we have to try and get on with. As like I said, a catch-22 of these kind of players. Right? They have responsibilities and cultures elsewhere, for sure.
Yeah, and there was a report coming out actually a couple of days ago from that time when Heung-min nearly left Spurs, when Pochettino kind of pulled the plug in the deal in the last minute. And the report was that he was literally a second away from joining Everton that summer. And can you imagine if he would have left Everton that summer? What a mistake that would have been. That would have been mad. Yeah. And Pochettino apparently pulled the plug in the last second.
I think it's sort of the, what would be like the butterfly effect or something. You know, it's what could be the what ifs. You know, is always a big question. But yeah, imagine that. You know, Everton are a good team. They're uprising, and of course, I think they've got some relatively good investment behind them now.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
We're going to see a massive transition with them over the next few years. I don't know where the Premier League's going anymore, because
Newcastle as well now.
Yeah, well, we had this for 4 or 5 years now of really good, in quote unquote, success. We haven't got the trophies that people keep talking about, but in my opinion, it's been an absolutely amazing ride, and hopefully we can get back to those great levels of watching great football and stuff. But, you know, Everton will be rising massively, and the teams around them, Man City, Liverpool, will continue to accelerate.
Wolves have got money as well.
Yeah, and then we got the sleeping giants of Chelsea and the likes, you know, in the background. So what do? There's all of a sudden 7 teams that are not necessarily challenged for the title, but certainly the top 4.
Yeah.
Not everyone can obviously get those places. So yeah, it's very, very difficult. And I think maybe Everton do have quite a good academy in the last few years again as well. Pochettino would have been probably quite good with some of those players. I don't necessarily believe that a lot of them are the same or similar quality to what we've got, and certainly have had for the last few years. But yeah, this should have been a very strange fit. I hope he doesn't go to any other Premier League team ever, to be honest. Yeah, but we'll have to see.
I want Heung-min to stay at Spurs for the rest of his career, to be honest. But staying with Heung-min, The Athletic did do a Goal of the Season award, and Heung-min won it for his goal against Burnley. What a goal that was, taking it from just the edge of his box all the way. It was like Roadrunner that, you know, meet every time he went past the player. But what I want to talk to you about is a Hotspur Way opened up again today for players to start training in. They've put some social distancing measures in place. So they've opened up a number of pitches, and apparently it's 1 footballer per pitch. It's crazy. Is there any point in it?
It's the same everywhere though, isn't it? You know, like the discussions around going back to an office, is that the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do? Is there much point if there's only a certain amount that are allowed back in and you have to separate desks and this, that and the other? Of course, it's going to be very different for everyone in the next few months. You know, touch wood for not too long in the future, but everyone's got to do what we need to do for the health and safety of everyone, you know.
Sure.
But in terms of a pitch, it's similar to like I go to local fields because there's no one there, and I could go to a park or down the road and everyone's doing the same thing, and I'm like, well, rather than people, and this happened the other day. I walked in the woods with the dogs. 2 people, very different people. One jumped in a bush when they saw me, not because they didn't like me, but because they didn't want to walk past me. Maybe they didn't like me. I don't know.
Sure you didn't look too scared?
And the other one was going on about and the other one was going on about dogs carrying viruses and stuff that they shouldn't mingle with other dogs. And I was like, I don't really know the scientific evidence of that, mate, but okay, fair enough. And he ran off the other direction as well. So I was like, I'm going to avoid that and go to the field. And I guess like I could kind of see the principle of the football pitches, but that's a lot of space for one player. I can imagine them all, like we all are with the housings, you know, sitting in the house situation and whatnot, that all the players are chomping at the bit to get back out there and,
of course,
you know, normality, training. And it's not going to be like that for a while. And then there's the question of, you know, if and when the league opens again, is how the preparation occur for these teams, because they have to essentially follow the similar patterns and process that everyone else is doing. So you can't expect the 11, 22 or however many players with the training ground together like they normally used to be. So I get it that it's going to be separate, but I think one per pitch is a bit excessive, a bit wasted.
Yeah, you're right.
Good for the groundsman, doesn't have to keep checking the ground all over the place.
Well, I think you'd prefer to keep busy, to be honest. But
yeah,
there's been a report out of Holland from the Telegraph, which is considered to be a tier 1 source, so very reliable, about a goalkeeping situation. So Onana from Ajax, we were apparently very heavily interested in him, but now we're having second thoughts, and it is assumed that we're going to stick with Hugo Lloris as our number 1 keeper for next season. What do you think of that? Are you happy with Hugo, or do you think that we need a new keeper?
So you like putting me on the spot with these questions, don't you?
Yeah.
This is a very difficult one because I think we all admire Hugo. I think he's an incredible goalkeeper. We know he makes mistakes, and I've always had this thought process that when you are such a good keeper, the smallest of mistakes, or even one mistake, whether it be big or small, stands out sometimes even more than all the great things that you have achieved or done.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about silverware and stuff. I'm talking about his ability, shot stopper, some incredible saves that I can't remember the game now. It was a Champions League game where I was literally stood behind him, and I was thinking that's going in, and it didn't go in. It reminded me of David Seaman back in the day when I think they played Sheffield United or something, and he just clawed this thing.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah,
that is like inhuman almost.
Yeah.
And it was similar with the Hugo thing, and that saved us because about 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, we scored up the other end and we won the game eventually.
Is this the save where he held it in one hand and like rolled it behind his back on the goal line and then got it out?
That was one of them, but this one wasn't. This I think it was this season. I can't remember the Champions League game it was. That it was from a header, I'm sure it was. And I was like, how does he get that? And it was so quick. And we must remember that the talent. It's very easy to go, okay, we need a new keeper, but what keeper do we go and get? Do we get a younger one that's evolving? But again, they're quite difficult to find, or they're very expensive. Or do you find someone that is more, or has been around longer, in the sort of mid-bracket, like kind of like Liverpool did, I guess. They identified maybe a weakness they had in their team to previous keepers that they had, and they did what they needed to do. But I guess the big question is, like, we can bandish around so many names, but who's going to take us to the next level? And who's to say that he's not going to make a random mistake? In my eyes, I think Hugo deserves, like some of the players, they deserve some bigger success at Tottenham. They've given a lot of loyalty and commitment, and sometimes we fans forget that. We forget the loyalty, and that actually they have committed to long service to us, and committed their lives and time, and their environments have changed to accommodate the club that they play for. We sometimes forget this. So for me, I gladly see him stay, but I wouldn't say no to another option. The one key thing for us is I don't believe that our 2 backup keepers are good enough at all. And I don't know enough about the youth keepers that we've got. I'm pretty sure that they're not at a level yet to move and progress.
Well, I'm sure we would know more about them if they were.
Yeah, of course. But then it's the whole risk, isn't it? It's like, when do we stick this guy in to prove himself? Basically, it's very difficult. A lot of stress and pressure on trying to win a game, and at this intensity and level. So, yeah, I think the main key thing is to get someone that is younger, that we can mould, that Hugo can mentor in the sense that you're club captain, you have great leadership skills, and you have the morals of a leader, and teach this guy. You're not going to, unfortunately, be around for much longer in the team in general from a career perspective, or you might want to move on at some point as well. So let's help someone. Let's gear this guy up to, and hopefully there's one in our youth team, but I haven't seen one really. I think there's a couple of occasions where we chucked a youth keeper in because we had no one else.
Yeah.
May I remind everyone. But we don't have the backup, not just in goalkeepers, that's in quite a few positions, but I think goalkeepers obviously one of the main ones, because when you lose Hugo, you've lost the big guy at the back, the one that's really important to stop the goals going in, It's very difficult.
Having said that though, I think in the big games, that's where Hugo really finds his flaws. For some reason, he makes big mistakes in big games. In terms of captain and leader, I get your point that he shows captain and leader qualities, but do you really think he's the man to still hold the armband?
I'll be honest, I've always said no, not because I dislike him or anything. It's just I feel, and I only go on observation because you and I, you go to more games than I do, but I go to enough games to know that you can hear everything. And we all sit so close to the pitch and you can hear it anyway. I feel you need some vocal side of it, We've missed out a long time. Levy King used to be quite vocal. Michael Dawson was vocal when he was captain. Harry Kane, I thought, would step up massively. But again, I felt like he was a bit like Hugo, actually. I still don't think he was very vocal. He was more like someone to look at to go, Harry, please help us out because we're terrible. Yeah. And it was like that, rather than someone that's going to grab everything and get it going. Now, I'm not, I don't like to talk about Liverpool at the moment. No one does. But well,
they're not winning the title apparently anyway.
Yeah, John Henderson, to be fair, is very vocal on the pitch. He may not be the greatest player in the world, in my opinion. He's a good player, don't get me wrong, but everyone has the respect for him because he's the type of person that goes like, come on guys, we need to wake up here, or do this, do that. If someone needs a bit of a yelling at, go and give it to them. Almost not as crazy as Roy Keane was, but that's what you need. You need the pickup, not someone who's going to slump down and go, oh God, guys, what are we going to do now? And just face down the floor and stuff like Hugo does sometimes. I get that aspect, and I do agree with you that I think we could be looking, but then again, who do we then give it to? Who is vocal?
I think there's a serious lack of leadership in our squad.
Yeah.
I really do. Serious.
Yeah, now you either get someone in and they have to have the philosophy and the leader skills to do that, and the respect more than anything. Respect is very important. You can't just come into a club and go, right, here's your band, mate, and get on with it.
Yeah.
And expect everyone to be like, oh, who's this guy? It needs to be either someone that's been there for a long time that can do it. But I can't really see anyone that wants to take the responsibility more than anything, and then push forward with a mentality to drive everyone. So it's balancing whether you get someone external and then demand the respect, or gain the respect, or find someone in that team that will step up to it. But right now I don't see anyone.
What I'm about to say is going to be a very unpopular opinion, but I actually feel that Dier shows those leadership qualities, but I don't feel that his quality on the pitch is actually good enough. That's the problem.
You read my mind, literally, because he is vocal and he has passion and not so much energy, maybe physically right now, but he has the energy and the passion, and that's what we love to see. I don't want to see him running out into stands like I saw in that game.
Yeah,
but
we don't know how long he's going to be banned for either.
Yeah, but it's that process in the head that this result actually affected me. I may not be playing very well at the moment, or the team may not be playing very well, but that affected me, and I want to do something about it. But when he has had the armband, even for England in times, he has been a very good captain. But like you say, it's then the balancing of ability and being a captain. I'm not saying that Dier is on the level of Jordan Henderson, but Henderson, again, is not a player, in my opinion, that is, he's not a Zinedine Zidane. He's not an amazing footballer.
To be fair, though, I think he is very underrated.
Yeah, of course. He is incredible at interceptions and getting that ball back, for sure. But I mean, in terms of the talent of, skills and things like that, he's never been that player, and he never will be. He is what he is, like a leader, and that's what we need. And Dier is in reality the nearest thing we have to a leader in that aspect, just not the ability side. But then again, it's where do you balance that? Are you looking for someone that's the complete 100%? Well, that's not going to happen. Certainly not with
a couple of years ago. It would have been Toby Alderweireld or Jan Vertonghen.
Yeah, and again, that's down to drive, isn't it? Because now they're at the end of their careers, or certainly their careers at Tottenham. They're like, well, don't really have the effort to do that anymore. 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 100%. Yeah, who wouldn't want to see that? Of course. Yeah, it's very difficult. We got a lot of. I probably think we're the biggest club in the Premier League that has more questions than answers right now.
Probably, yeah. You're probably right about that one. But last but not least, what I want to talk about is the state of football. Obviously, French football cancelled now. Yeah. Holland football's cancelled. Scottish football's cancelled. What do you think should happen with the Premier League? Are you for this behind closed doors in June, or do you think it should just be null and void from now? Just finish it and be done with it.
These are even bigger questions, aren't they? They're questions where everyone's hands are tied, because even at the beginning of the situation, where there was talk of the Premier League pausing like everywhere else, and there's still discussions. Now, what we've got to remember in the background is the financial situation of everyone. Then there's the crazy conundrum of, okay, well, if we stop it now, who gets relegated, who gets promoted, who gets titles, top four, or is it done based on what the positioning now? Do we stop and go back a year? There's so many crazy things to think about to make a decision like that. Now, I'm always a firm believer. I'm like, look, guys, how much time do you need to figure this out? Because you've had like maybe 2 months now. But I can imagine, a board of people on their Zoom conferences and stuff going around in circles, and then you're going to have to get all the clubs to agree to this. I don't know how many 2 and 4 it needs to be in terms of percentages for it to be a definitive decision or not. But that's another thing. We've got the lower leagues, I think, in England been maybe cancelled already. I can't remember.
Yeah,
like you say,
I think the National League and below.
Yeah. Now the Prime Minister has mentioned about in France. Sorry, the French Prime Minister mentioning about the sporting events in general being cancelled till August or after August. Now the other thing is about the delay of timing. Okay, if we will delay Premier League and all the other leagues till August, maybe beginning of September, this messes up everything, because you then have the snowball effect of what do we do in the Christmas period? The winter break may not even happen because we need to catch up. And then next summer is supposedly the Euros, which whether that gets the postponement or not, or moved. And again, that just creates problems again in the future. So there's so much to consider. What is right and what is wrong? At the end of the day, the most important thing is the health and safety of players, fans, staff, everything. Yeah. The finance of it is something the chairmans and stuff, they get paid millions of pounds a year to make these decisions and figure this out. As long as everyone's okay and everyone's been looked after and sort of pushed in that sense, then that's one of the critical things, isn't it? The next sort of big steps really are making sure that someone makes a decision. We can't do anything. We can just speculate and make sure that as fans we're ready for what happens. It could be that we're in for a very, very long summer of no football and other, but in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing compared to what's happening in reality out there. That's the most important thing. We've got the NHS staff, and this, I'm not turning this into a political video here, but there's more important things, if that makes sense. And football is very important to people's minds and general well-being and everything. Everyone loves football in this area, and it is for people's minds. So there's a whole big mix of things to think. But what someone needs to come out, and I've said to a couple of mates the other day, FIFA in a sense as a global organization need to make a decision, in my opinion, and shut everything down if they want to do that. In my head, I'm like, okay, the Dutch league, the French league, right, so they're shutting things down. That creates already an instant ripple effect in everything. Champions League qualifications, European qualifications, finances, competitive side of it, this gives some clubs advantages over others. Some might continue their season and then get more money per club, and vice. It's just so many things left, right, and centre that they will need to think about. But my feeling is that this needs to come from a higher source, a higher level, to go, actually everything's gone. Sorry, but you guys are going to have to deal with it financially, deal with it this, that, and the other. Protect your staff as much as possible. We've all seen profit numbers of the Premier League teams. I'd be amazed if many of them struggle. But I think it has to come from a top level to make the decision, not through leagues deciding themselves. It's almost like they think they're on a world of their own, that this elite population, that they can make their own decisions versus the government and everyone else. What actually needs to happen is a global organisation at the FIFA level to say what is what. Otherwise, maybe not a global thing, but a continental. Like each body from each continent should make the decision. Like UEFA should make the decision for Europe. I think that might be the way to go. But now we've had. Sorry, yeah, of course, yeah.
Now we've had certain countries cancel their leagues. I think, to be honest, the whole of Europe should cancel all their leagues, or all of Europe should all be singing off the same hymn sheet, shouldn't they?
And it's hard because, well, some people are going to be out there like, what's in it for me kind of thing. Liverpool instead of going, well, give us the title then, or they might be good sports about it and be like, totally appreciate the situation. Fans' perception may be completely different to what the club and the news say. I can imagine them going absolutely mental about the decision in some aspects. But it's got to start and stop somewhere. But who's making the decision and when are they going to do it? That's the big thing. And we're already 2 months down the line. It looks like we're potentially going into 2-3 more months again into the future. When does it stop? That's why I said someone needs to grab it by the down there and make a decision about it,
Yeah, and especially
very difficult
in this country, because it seems as like we take 3 weeks longer than any other country to make a decision. So look, I don't want to get into that conversation.
It's no different to everything in this country.
Yeah, exactly. So well, there you have it. That's the news for today. Thank you very much, Si, for coming and joining me.
Stay safe, everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Stay safe, everyone. Like, subscribe, and comment below. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Cheers, guys.